We currently have our ID in the constructor for our inquiry, in the edit inquiry page, set at a hard-coded value of 0. That's so that it's not null, that when we're testing the application we have something with which we can work. But that's not good. Our ID that we would use should be unique. It doesn't have to be, but it should be unique so that we could use that later to refer to what we need to get and load and so forth. So what we need to do is we're going to use part of the inquiry service and find the length of the array. That means how many are in the array, and use that as the ID. So that's not the best method. It's a bit crude, but it's what we're going to do for now. So that's what we'll do. So the first thing we have to do is we have to add the inquiry service to our particular module here. So we're going to import it first. That's our normal stuff from the inquiries, from the interfaces that we've got here, so that we have a style. And of course, what we need to do now is to add or inject it into the constructor. So I've added it in here. Private inquiry service is of type inquiry service. What we need to do now is that we're going to say that this ID is going to be this dot inquiry service dot whatever is in their inquiries in the array and the length. And that gives us an integer value which represents the number of items that are in the inquiry array at the moment. So that gives us an ID that we can apply to this particular inquiry that we're dealing with. So the next thing we have to do is we're going to work inside the on init, and we're going to get rid of this console.log. We don't need that anymore. And we're going to put a way of making sure that we get the inquiry by its ID. So I'm going to paste that code in. So I've pasted it in here. So it's saying that if the ID that we're working with is not null, then from the inquiry service, use the function load, and then, because it's asynchronous, remember, this dot inquiry equals this dot inquiry service get inquiry by its ID. So that should be beginning to make sense to you in terms of the code structure. If it doesn't, just read it again and again until you get a feeling of it. I'll just run over it if you wish. So if the ID is not null, if we've got something to work with, then from the inquiry service load and say it's asynchronous, so that the inquiry we want to work with is the inquiry services get inquiry by its ID. So we're going to work with the save inquiry function next, and it's very straightforward. So this dot inquiry service, and we're going to call add inquiry. Add inquiry. So what are we going to add? This dot inquiry, the current inquiry that we have in our system that we're working with. So that's really it. That's what we do to save it. So we've actually come quite a far way down the line. So I think what we need to do is we need to start making sure that we haven't broken anything in any major way. So I'm just going to Control K and save so that everything is saved. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to serve the application and test it out. So as usual, down in the terminal, Ionic serve, and this will save, compile, do everything and get ready. And because it's open, we'll need to open a new browser and get the application displayed in that. So before you compile, I'm going to pause this video with the whole of this part of the code on display. This is a good, what I would call a pause point, where you could maybe stop the video and make sure that your code matches this exactly. So I'm just going to pause and shut up. So that's okay. So let's see what we've got to do. So it says it's compiled successfully. So that's always good news. That's one sort of barrier overturned, or overcome, sorry. So I'm going to refresh my browser. So what I should be able to do is I should be able to get from storage. Now, I had been working with this application obviously before, and what we've now got is we've got my data that I've got from the current operations and anything I'd put in browser storage beforehand. I haven't yet worked out how to clear browser storage, but when we implement the delete, we'll be able to tidy that up. So let's just make sure we can add another one. So the customer's name would be, I don't know, Stacey Dooley, and she's going to be 01983 526631, and she wants a pram. Not trying to start up any rumours, sorry. So there's Stacey Dooley, and she's been added. That is very good news. We'll work out a way of cleaning this up, but this is just stuff that's in my storage. You will only have the last item that you have added when you do the same test and when it works for you successfully. So now we should test that when we click Stacey's data, that it goes into the inquiry page, or the edit page, sorry, and that we see what data we just typed in. Remember, it's 3 data items that we want to get. So if I click that, brilliant. So look at that. So if I changed that, just editing, and save, and go back here, you see we've got a problem. It's duplicated the item. So what we need to do in the next section is we need to make sure that we can determine whether we're actually adding a new inquiry or editing an existing inquiry.